Hi, I'm Meshea.
Hi, I'm Peggy.
And we are Hitting the Road in Mississippi.
So,
Hello, everyone. This is Meshea with Hitting the Road in Mississippi, and I am here with Miss Hit the Road herself, Peggy. I'm so honored to do this with you.
yay, Meshea, this is fun. I'm honored to be doing it with Meshea. And our special guest today, my Kyles.
Hello.
We are so glad, girl, that you're doing this with us.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. You know, I know that this looks like we're going to the races. This looks like we're hitting the road, like with the checkered flag.
I didn't think of
Isn't
that.
it?
Yeah, so we're just like, we're just taking off out the gate, full, we're going for the finish line here.
Mark.
Yeah, so I just love it. I love it.
I have a personal connection with Miss MK, as I call her, which is short for my Kyles. She and I were actually on tour together for a little while with Jericka Singleton. And it was when Jericka tapped her to be his drummer. And Mercy, that was a trip.
Yeah.
We we rode in the van. We stayed in the same room together because we were the only two females. And so I was really pleased to know Maya back then when she was starting out. And we actually drove all the way back from Maine to Mississippi
Wow.
in my car with John Blackman driving too. So there were three of us to get my little car all the way back from Maine. So
You're driving a tiny RAV4 then.
yeah, I had a tiny RAV4. That's right.
Not fun drive.
I'm glad you said that. I don't think it was fun at all. It was growing, but it was good to have two other people driving. So anyway, I've had just a personal fun attachment to Maya and have just seen her grow wonderfully as a drummer. She was a bad drummer back then, bad as in good, and she's just gotten so much better, so many gigs, and we're going to get her to tell you about that, but she's playing jazz now and finessing the jazz. And
I'd like to hope so.
Yeah, she's finessing the jazz and playing. She's a hard drummer. I mean, like, hits it really hard. She's not just your typical shuffle drummer. No. And so we're going to ask her about who else she's playing with and stuff. But anyway, yeah, we're glad to have Maya here. And just to start us off, this is a complete curveball.
Okay.
When Maya and I were rooming together, Maya would come in with this big old suitcase, and listen, there's nothing to be embarrassed about.
I know, it's just funny.
She blew me away because she had this wonderful big can of Lysol, and she would Lysol the whole room. And it's like, I never thought of that. It makes so much sense, and she's a good traveler in that respect. But the other thing was, she would whip out her can of spray starch, and it was like we were on tour, and she was bringing all these cutesy clothes that had to be ironed and starched, and I was thinking, what was she thinking?
I'm like the license thing.
So you pack differently when you hit the road now? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, the thing was, I had to get used to like traveling as a musician.
Exactly.
And so it really didn't click for me just yet that like, fool, you on tour, like you gotta pack light. Like I was used to traveling, with my family and things, like vacation.
Yeah.
And so that's why I would bring, all the things, because for one, I was, taught to always be prepared and all that kind of thing. And it didn't help that then I was still living with my parents and like, asking them for help. So it was still kind of like, you need to pack all these things.
So you were getting packing advice from the parents.
That sounds like a mom.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
She was a great mom.
Well, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
So I think I sort of got onto her at first because she would bring her drums and her stuff, and it'd just be in the back. I mean, they weren't in bags.
Mm-mm.
They weren't in
They
cases.
weren't.
And I was saying, oh my gosh, what if a drum gets damaged? What if it falls out of the van and it's not in a case? It really stressed me a lot.
Really?
Yeah, it really did.
Oh, that's a drummer thing. Lots of drummers do that.
They do. They do. But now I take better care of my equipment now.
I know, and that's what I wanted to applaud you for.
Because she's a big kid now. She packs light and her drums have cases.
Exactly.
I'm a
She's,
big kid now.
she's a real professional musician now, hitting the road in Mississippi.
Yes.
So,
And beyond. So those are some really cute stories and some cute little anecdotes there about being on the road with Maya. So that kind of leads us to what we're talking about, which is hitting the road and hitting the road in Mississippi. So Maya, you're a percussionist here in Mississippi, a female percussionist. You play blues, you play jazz,
Church. She plays
Church.
church.
you play church. I've heard you do jazz, I've heard you do blues, and I have to say my experience with you has been whenever I got up and sang country, you got back there and you said, I'm your drummer, girl, and you, when you're there, you get up and you drum for me, and so I appreciate that so much. So she plays country too, folks. And but what is it like for you being a female drummer? Because there's not a lot. I haven't ran into a lot here that I've seen. I think you're the only one I've seen at Blue Monday so far. Mm-hmm. And what is that like? What is it like hitting the road as a female drummer? Because a lot of guys in the groups. Peggy said we were the only two girls that were on that trip. So what is that like? And I guess the other thing is, why did you decide to do this? What caused you to be hitting the road in Mississippi as a musician? How did Maya get here?
Well, the whole way that I got into traveling or hitting the road in Mississippi, again, like Peggy mentioned, Jerika Singleton, he was leading a fill-in drummer for some dates, and John Blackman was playing then, and actually John and I were like dating at the time. He was like, "Baby, you want to go like play on the road?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?"
Why not?
So the first show we did was that place in North Carolina, wasn't it? Or maybe South Carolina. It was one of them. It was like the water rafting that they had out there.
Oh,
like
yeah. That was Charlotte.
That was in Charlotte.
North Carolina.
It was in Charlotte. That was the first show that I played with Jerika's. And then we had that whole weekend. Canada. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I started hitting the road, like I said, with Jerika's, and that was the whole thing that started it all. That just kind of catapulted me. But as a musician, as a female drummer, I think my experience has been a unique one, especially when I talk to men, because music is male dominated, and I enjoy talking to the older musicians, and a lot of them tell me all their crazy road experiences, and I'm just like, man, I haven't really. I don't remember, having just any like extremely crazy stories. I think the only really, really crazy one was when we were in France. That was pretty scary because that's when they had like some attacks going on over there. And we were there.
Right, and you guys came home early.
Mm-hmm. We came home early. We were
That
like,
was you and Ben, right?
mm-hmm. And, we were actually with Jerika's Ben.
Mm-hmm.
So we left early, and that was that was a time. That was a rough thing. But I forever respect Jerika's for making that decision because he was the person in charge. He was like, I'm not gonna have this kind of thing on my hand. I was like, okay, cool. But yeah, that's always been an interesting thing to me is that unless my viewpoint is just not like, oh, this is absurd. I don't think I really had any really crazy stories. But I will say that playing with Jerika's was great. And then at some point I went on to play with Dexter Allen, which we didn't travel much, but when we did, it was always a good time. Let's see who else. I'm with Jamel, of course, right now.
Right.
Jamel
Richardson.
Richardson. Yeah, the Gulf Coast Blues boy.
That's right.
So I've been with
Mobile.
Jamel. Yeah, I've been with Jamel since 2018. He's from Mobile, Alabama.
That long.
Mhm. Or it was either 2018 or 2019.
I just didn't realize.
I think it was 19. It was 19.
I didn't realize it was that long. Wow.
Yeah, it's been a while, and it's been pretty cool to work with Mel, like going from playing with him like pre-COVID, and then kind of going through COVID, and like coming out of COVID, like just kind of keeping that line of communication. It's been cool to work with him. We've recorded at Sun Studios. So Ben and I always call it that we're on tour because we usually have to go down to the Gulf Coast to play with him, whereas he might have like an hour and a half travel.
Right.
So Ben and I are like, oh yeah, we're going on tour this weekend.
That's kind of what it is.
Yeah, but I mean it's also a little bit better because we're closer to home. So
Right. And so, being the only girl, does that ever?
I think just the way that I grew up like hanging out with my boy cousins all the time. And so, it doesn't bother me to be like around men.
Right.
I've never really had to room with men. Which makes me good. But Peggy was a good roommate though. So, but I've never had to room with a man. There was one instance where I did have to room with a man, but it wasn't long and it wasn't weird. So, but yeah, I've always tried to show respect and get respect. So there's never really been like a clash there.
Yeah. Well, I think you have that energy of just you're relaxed about everything. So I think yeah, you are. That's the energy you put out is you're calm and relaxed about things. So I would think that's the energy you would get back, of course.
So when you first started playing drums, was your first thing in church? Is that?
So my grandmother and I both are members of the Mississippi Mass Choir. She is a trailblazer of the choir, meaning that she.
I didn't know that.
Oh, Peggy, I thought you knew that.
No, that is so cool.
Yeah. I joined right in 2013, maybe. That might have been 2013. But yeah, I joined the choir, and it's funny because people who joined the choir who were like little, just kind of coming up around the choir, they call us choir babies. So
you were a choir baby.
You were a choir baby.
MMC choir baby. But my grandmother is an original member of the choir, and back then when I was 4 and 5, that's when I became interested in drums. Sam Scott was the drummer.
Yeah.
Who plays with Grady Champion.
Yeah.
He plays with Eddie Cotton. A host of other people. I mean, Sam is a legend in his own right. But he was a drummer. And I just remember watching, they were like at a festival. And imagine if this is the stage. I'm standing behind the stage and I'm just like mesmerized. My ears are ringing because like the snare is popping. But I just remember being mesmerized and I'm like, I really want to do that. That's what I want to do. And that's, music has always drawn me, but drums that's my thing. That's what has always drawn me. So
the arts in Mississippi evolved from people wanting to express themselves. And so that makes sense when you look at a painting, you see what the artist is expressing. When you read a book, whenever a songwriter writes a song or a singer picks a song to sing. But what is a percussionist expressing? What is it about rhythm that you would say is expression?
For me personally, I can just remember the first time that I picked up like drumsticks to play a drum set. It was like it just came out. And I think the expression part of it is I'm pretty much an introvert. I've just learned how to be an extrovert, like kind of
right.
But since I was a child and I didn't really like know how to communicate different things, or I just kind of used to be to myself. Drums was just, it always felt natural, and it always felt like it just would come out when I would sit down and play. So I think that's the expression part for me. Now what I'm expressing, it depends on the day. It depends on the
That's
day.
a good answer.
Like sometimes if I'm in my own practice, then I could be expressing anger or frustration. As a matter of fact, I remember quite vividly when we came back from that France trip. I was that was a bad spot. That was a pretty bad spot. And I remember I was at home practicing, and I just I was playing like really hard, and I just stopped and I started crying. I was like, I am very frustrated. So yeah, so it's music is very much
it's release.
Yeah, it's a release for me. It's a spiritual thing. And when I play like out, I always try to play from a pure space, or the love and all that kind of thing. So that's the expression.
Now I see ladies sitting back there. All of this stuff going on up in here, and ain't nobody moving nothing. I don't understand. They must be scientists trying to solve the world's problems and stuff. But it ain't like that. I got to do something. And we have my little sister on drums. Yeah. How about it for my singing, y'all? Yeah. How about it? Come on. Give my little sister a round on. Let's see what she can do. All right. Bye.
Say then that, if I'm hearing you correctly, there were words and things that you wanted to vocalize, that you were an introvert and you didn't, and you were a child and you didn't, so you beat the daylights out of something rhythmically and expressed it that way. And that turned into what you do now. And now, whenever you're performing, if I hear you correctly, when you're performing, you go to a place of center, so your performance always comes from a place of love. But when you're practicing, you still let yourself go to wherever you need to release whatever you need to.
That is specifically it.
That's pretty cool.
That is great.
Yeah,
that is great.
So
Thank you very much, Maya. We really enjoyed having you.
I've enjoyed being here.
Good. Thank you so much for hitting the road with us, or talking about hitting the road in Mississippi with us.
And out.
Yeah, and
out of
and beyond.
And beyond, that's
Mississippi.
right. Taking
Absolutely.
Mississippi other places.
and beyond.
Yeah.
Yes, and being so frank with your discussion about it too. We appreciate that as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank y'all for doing this.
Oh, yeah, we're happy to. So you all, that's Maya Kyles telling us all about her experience as a percussionist here in Mississippi. And until next time, thank you all for hitting the road in Mississippi. Bye, y'all.
Thank you for joining us. We'd love to hear any ideas you might have about what we're doing, or any suggestions about where we might go or someone we might interview.
As we are hitting the road in Mississippi.